Welcome to the Leadership We Need Now, a space where we talk about kind, caring, and courageous leadership. I'm Stacey Dye, and I've been a nonprofit director for over 20 years, but also a strategist and an executive coach. And today I briefly want to put out a small video just saying that for those of you that may or may not know, I live in Wheeling, West Virginia. And in the past week, we've experienced a traumatic, horrific flooding that has cost people their lives, that people have lost their homes, their vehicles, everything they own, literally getting out of their homes with just the clothes on their back. And I think that although what I have to say is not maybe even worthy of being talked about or worthy of my voice being heard at this moment, but I do have quite a bit of experience in my previous job with flood relief, long and short-term flood relief and recovery. And this is just such a traumatic event for a community and for the people that have experienced so much loss. And what you see is that people care about each other, people show up for each other, people have shown up every single minute of every single day since it's happened to muck out houses to help recover vehicles and recover human loss, to clean up pictures that were destroyed in flooding that were miles down the creek. And what you see is this human spirit, this generosity and giving and caring human aspect that we should honor and respect as high as we possibly can, because this is part of why West Virginia is the way that it is, and why those of us that live here and have lived here our whole lives stay is because of the people. Because when there is a tragedy, when there is a disaster, when there is something horrible that goes on in your life, people show up for you. And I think the challenging part, and I am moving only into this leadership conversation because I have known it, experienced it, seen it in multiple different ways, is that when this happens, no matter how many plans you have or how many meetings you've had or how prepared you are, which, to be honest with you, none of us prepare for this. None of us have the time, resources, or ability to prepare for something like this. And even if you are, this has exceeded that in the devastation. And so you are looking at people who are showing up to help, who are the givers, who are the caring people, the generous people in our community, who are showing up and trying to take control and support the healing and the help for those that have been affected. And what's always amazing to me is how people show up. And I have looked around, and in my experience with a lot of the groups that are doing stuff, everybody's jumping in, not because this is what they do, but because this is what needs done. And I look at some of the people that are not in titled positions, like aren't the director of whatever or the chairperson of whatever or whatever it is, but they are just people who can organize, people who other people listen to, people who have friendships and relationships that can get people engaged, people who can see organization in disaster or in chaos and help bring calm to situations. And this is such a hard time, because if you are a giver, no matter what level of contribution you're giving, this will not feel like enough. If you're donating, especially in our community at this point in time, there's so many families that have been affected so many GoFundMes, so many organizations raising money, so many places taking donations, so many people giving donations, so many people in desperate need. I mean, these are people who have lost people that they love, also lost their homes, also lost their cars, also lost all their belongings, and barely survived it. And you can't even sometimes access where their home was, if it still exists in the same place. And so whatever training, whatever planning, whatever anybody has tried to prepare for, there is no way that anyone is going to do this perfectly. And when we're doing this, it is important to make sure that we support each other and that we show up for each other and that we help each other. And that means that we know, studies probably show it, I haven't looked it up, but you literally in this time have a week, maybe two, where you stay on a news cycle, where people are still thinking about it, where still people are paying attention, where you're going to receive donations, where people are going to be able to come in and help, because people can maybe take a week off of work and help you muck out and get your appliances out so the National Guard can take it, but they can't take off 2 weeks or 3 or a month that it's going to take you to help rebuild any of that. And all of the donations that are coming in right now for the emergency, for the triage piece, that's about getting the mud out, getting it clean, getting it disinfected, getting everything out. Then there's going to be a stage where there's fans and dehumidifiers and cleaning things to a different level. Then there's going to be the rebuild, which is how do we prioritize? What is the emerging need? Okay, you have people without a furnace, you have people whose electric box has been destroyed, who don't have a refrigerator, who don't have this, who have special healthcare needs. All of those things will take a prioritization in resources, and those resources will dwindle, though that support will dwindle. And so even people who have renter's insurance, their renter's insurance won't cover flood. So even if you do everything quote unquote right, you still won't get the help and support you need. And so I think this is when, as helpers, it's important to remember, all those helpers have a whole other life and a whole other level of responsibility outside of what they're doing in this moment. So very few people are paid to do any of that. And even if they are, they have another job. So it's not like, as an organization, I remember I helped and I spent a lot of time on that, but I had other projects, other programs, I had employees, I had other things that were happening that I had to balance out, plus a home life and children and a family and a home and everything else to take care of. And the overwhelming guilt of the fact that I wasn't affected, that my home is dry and safe, and that these are just stories for me to tell and talk about and help as I can. And so knowing that about each other and knowing that no one is going to know how to do this right, if you have good people, if you have honest, helpful people in the center, trying to make sense of things, trying to do things right, because even if you have a plan, you don't know where it's going to happen. So even for us, access to resources is a huge thing. But when there's so many flood affected places, even resource distribution is hard. Even getting stuff to people how they need it, even knowing what they need when they need it, is really hard. And then if you take away the fact that people don't have transportation because their cars are gone, it is so overwhelming. And so just this piece of when I think about leadership, I think about looking at those people that have stepped up and stepped into roles that they are not comfortable with, that they are not paid for, that they are trying to do the best they can. And it is not going to be a perfect process, but they are doing the best they can, and they're showing up. And so if we can have grace with each other and have this understanding that we kind of have to go along with the fact that, like, this is my current best thinking. Today, this is the best location. Today, this is what we need. This moment, this is what is happening. And people be flexible and understanding that that may all have to change because situations change or access changes or resource changes. And so we have really had to, everybody has to take a crash course in disaster relief. And even if you've experienced it, everything is different. Every situation is different. Every population is different. Everything is different. And we can certainly take from the ideas and the ways things have happened in the past. That's 1000% where we did everything for the 2017 floods. We looked at what had happened in southern West Virginia in 2016. And we contacted people who had worked that, who had done that. We even had at that time people that had worked on our 2004 floods. And we knew how to leverage knowledge and experience, but then make that specialized to what we were doing now. And I think the challenge with that is that we really were learning. We really cared about it and we could dedicate the time. You have so many people that come into the fold. If you don't have experience in volunteer management, if you don't have experience in product donations, it is overwhelming. And you can drown in product, especially inappropriate products. Like right now, people donating clothes, shy of people saying, hey, listen, all my clothes are gone. I need 5 muck out outfits. And being able to provide that. No one needs a wardrobe right now because there's nowhere clean to put it. There's nowhere for them to utilize that. And so to take up storage space with clothing is hard, but people want to help and they're trying to do the best they can. They're trying to do what they can in the moment. And so how do you harness that? How do you harness where people's generosity is? How do you harness your help and support when you have it? How do you really take and nurture and help the people that have been affected by this, who still have to carry on, who can't just, life doesn't just stop. And how do you help the helpers? How do we nurture and help the helpers? And that is something that I think that we try to figure out as it goes. And we can look back and say, this was a mistake, or we should have done that, or we should have done this. But I think that in this moment, it's important to recognize that good people are showing up. Not all people that show up are good. Let's just say that. I know for the whatever people may say later. But on the whole, the majority, the super majority, the people are good, well-intentioned helpers. And they want to just show up for their community. And they understand that, again, we're all one thing away from something happening like that to us. And we don't want that. We also understand that even though it hasn't happened to us, we wouldn't want it to, and that would be devastating. And you add on top of the fact of all of their stuff and trying to rebuild and trying to think about how, when you're barely making it now, how are you going to buy all new and find a new place to live when housing's already difficult to find? It's overwhelming. It is overwhelming. And so how we do this is understanding that we're all doing our best, and that the more support we can provide to the helpers, the better, and the more support we can provide to the people that have been traumatized, the better. And so just sending out so much love. There's so many ways that people can support the floods and the people that have been affected by them. And whether that's a GoFundMe, whether that's donating to organizations like Catholic Charities, the United Way, or any of those organizations that are doing the work, you can help. You can do what you can do. And so just a little bit of love and support for all of you that are showing up every day, and for those of you that are experiencing this traumatic event personally and have experienced more trauma in the past week than a lifetime deserves. My heart is with you, and I'm sending you my best. And we just need to stick together. Thank you.